What would you do if your husband suddenly lost everything and started working under you? Have you ever wondered what you would do if, overnight, the person who had always provided for your family suddenly lost everything? Would your marriage survive? Or would the pressure slowly pull you apart? Because that is exactly what happened to me. I never imagined I would become the breadwinner. For years, my husband, Mark, was the one everyone admired. He was a successful executive, the confident decision maker, the man whose career seemed untouchable. Every morning he left home before sunrise wearing perfectly tailored suits. Every evening, he came back with stories about board meetings, million-dollar deals, and ambitious plans for our future. Meanwhile, I loved my own career in marketing, but if anyone had asked who carried the family's financial weight, the answer was obvious. Mark did. We had a comfortable life. Weekend trips, nice restaurants, savings, retirement plans. Everything looked stable, until one ordinary Tuesday changed everything. That morning started like every other. We kissed goodbye. He smiled. "I'll see you tonight." Neither of us knew those words would become the beginning of an entirely different life. Around noon, my phone rang. It was Mark. His voice sounded strange, quiet, almost empty. He simply said, "I've been laid off." For a moment, I couldn't even process the words. Mark? Laid off? The same man whose company constantly praised him? The same executive who trained new managers? The same man everyone believed would retire there? It didn't make sense. When I arrived home later that evening, he was sitting alone in complete silence, still wearing his expensive suit. His briefcase rested beside the couch, exactly where he had dropped it. He hadn't even changed clothes. He just stared at the floor. "I don't know who I am anymore," he whispered. That sentence broke my heart. Not because we were suddenly struggling financially, but because I watched the confident man I married disappear in a single afternoon. The following weeks were even harder. Every morning his body still woke at 6 o'clock out of habit. He showered, got dressed, made coffee, then remembered there was nowhere to go. Slowly the suits disappeared. The polished shoes stayed in the closet. The alarm stopped ringing. Instead, he spent hours sitting quietly in the living room scrolling through job listings that never seemed to lead anywhere. I hated leaving for work every morning. Every goodbye felt heavier than the day before. While I walked into meetings, he stayed behind surrounded by silence. Friends stopped calling as often. Former co-workers slowly disappeared. Job applications turned into rejection emails, one after another. Each rejection chipped away at his confidence. Meanwhile, the bills kept arriving. Mortgage, insurance, utilities, groceries. Life refused to slow down simply because our income had changed. One evening, I opened our banking app. The numbers frightened me. For the first time in our marriage, I realized my paycheck was now carrying everything. I closed the phone, looked across the room at Mark. He looked exhausted, even though he hadn't left the house all day. That's when I realized something important. If we kept pretending this was temporary, it would destroy us. We needed to stop waiting for life to return to normal, because maybe normal wasn't coming back. And the conversation I decided to have with him the very next morning would completely change our marriage in ways neither of us could have imagined. I asked my husband to work under me. Neither of us was ready for what happened next. The next morning, I barely touched my breakfast. Mark sat across from me, quietly stirring his coffee. Neither of us knew how to start the conversation. Finally, I reached across the table and held his hand. "Mark, we can't keep living like this." He nodded without looking up. "I know." I took a deep breath. "I have an idea." He finally looked at me. "It might sound strange, but until you're back on your feet, I need you to work with me." He frowned. "What do you mean?" "I don't mean getting a job at my office. I mean becoming my partner in running our life." He stayed silent. So I continued. "I'm carrying the income right now, but that doesn't mean I should carry everything else too. If I'm working 12-hour days, I need someone I completely trust to manage everything happening outside the office." For several seconds, neither of us spoke. Then he asked quietly, "So, I'd basically be working under you?" I smiled gently. If that's how you want to describe it, yes. I'll be responsible for bringing in the income. You'll be responsible for making sure our home runs like a successful business. I expected him to argue. Instead, he surprised me. He simply said, "Okay." That single word changed everything. Within days, Mark transformed our home into something that almost looked like a corporate headquarters. There was a family calendar on the kitchen wall, color-coded schedules, monthly budgets, shopping lists organized by aisle, digital reminders, expense reports, meal plans, appointment trackers. Even our pantry suddenly looked like it belonged in a luxury cooking show. For the first time in years, I wasn't worrying about unpaid bills. The groceries were always stocked. The laundry was folded. Dinner was ready before I arrived home. Even my work clothes had been ironed. One evening I laughed and said, "I think you run this house better than most CEOs run their companies." He smiled for the first time in months. "You hired a good operations manager." It became our little joke. Whenever I walked through the front door, he'd ask, "How was the office?" And I'd reply, "How's headquarters?" For a while, life actually felt lighter. But beneath the surface, something else was quietly happening. The more organized our lives became, the more distant we became. Instead of talking like husband and wife, we started sounding like business partners. Our conversations became things like, "The electricity bill has been paid. The investment account increased this month. I've scheduled your dentist appointment. I prepared tomorrow's presentation notes." Practical, efficient, professional, but something was missing. Us. One Friday night, I came home exhausted after losing an important client. I wanted someone to hug me, to tell me everything would be okay. Instead, Mark handed me a folder. I analyzed next month's expenses. I stared at him. Then I quietly placed the folder on the table. "Mark, I don't need a report. I need my husband." The room went completely silent. His shoulders slowly dropped. I don't know how to be him anymore. Those words hit harder than anything he'd ever said. For months, he had been trying so hard to stay useful that he forgot how to simply be present. And maybe so had I. That night, we stayed awake talking until almost sunrise. No budgets, no spreadsheets, no job applications. Just two people admitting how scared they really were. We cried, we laughed, we apologized, and together we made one promise. No matter what happened financially, our marriage would always come before our responsibilities. So we created new rules. Every Friday became date night. No phones, no work, no discussions about money. Every morning we took a walk together before I left for work. Every evening we spent 30 minutes talking, not about bills or careers, but about how we actually felt. Little by little, my husband started coming back. Not the executive, not the household manager, just Mark. Around the same time, something else began to change. Instead of spending every hour searching for another executive position, he started learning new skills. He enrolled in online courses, attended networking events, connected with former colleagues, updated his resume, built a completely new professional profile. For the first time since losing his job, I saw hope return to his eyes. I didn't know it then, but one unexpected phone call was about to change everything again. And this time, neither of us saw it coming. The phone call that changed everything, but not the way we expected. Have you ever waited so long for good news that when it finally arrived, you almost didn't believe it? That's exactly what happened to us. It was a rainy Wednesday afternoon. I was sitting in a client meeting when my phone vibrated. 3 missed calls, all from Mark. My heart immediately started racing. Had something happened? Was he okay? The moment the meeting ended, I called him back. He answered on the first ring. His voice was different. Not anxious, not defeated, just excited. I got an offer. For a second, I couldn't speak. Then I smiled so hard my cheeks hurt. "You got the job?" "I did." I leaned against the hallway wall trying not to cry. After months of rejection, hundreds of applications, dozens of interviews, someone had finally seen the man I always believed was still there. But then he said something unexpected. It's not the executive role I used to have. It's a startup. The salary is lower. The title is smaller. And honestly, I've never been happier. That night, we celebrated with homemade pasta instead of an expensive restaurant. Funny enough, it tasted even better because this time, we weren't celebrating a paycheck. We were celebrating hope. A few weeks later, Mark started his new job. The first thing I noticed wasn't the money. It was his smile. Every morning he woke up excited again. He laughed more. He talked more. The confidence that disappeared the day he lost his old job slowly returned. But something else happened that neither of us expected. The startup had recently become one of my company's clients, which meant, from time to time, our work crossed paths. The first time we attended the same business meeting, we couldn't stop laughing. Just months earlier, he had been managing our grocery budget at home. Now, we were discussing marketing strategies across the same conference table. After the meeting, one of my colleagues smiled and whispered, "So, your husband works with your client?" I laughed, something like that. People assumed it would feel awkward. Honestly, it didn't. If anything, it made us respect each other even more. For the first time, Mark truly understood the pressure I carried every day. He had seen my late nights, the difficult deadlines, the client calls, the endless responsibility. And I finally understood what unemployment had taken from him. Not just a paycheck, an identity, a routine, a sense of purpose. We stopped measuring each other's value by income. Instead, we celebrated effort, growth, character, kindness, teamwork. Looking back now, the layoff wasn't the end of our story. It was the beginning of a better one. It forced us to communicate honestly. It forced us to let go of pride. It taught us that marriage isn't about deciding who leads. It's about deciding never to let the other person walk alone. People still ask me, "What was it like having your husband work under you?" I always smile before answering. He never really worked under me. He worked beside me. Our responsibilities looked different, but our value never did. Today, he's thriving in a career he genuinely loves. I'm continuing to grow in mine. Our finances are healthier than they've ever been. But the biggest blessing isn't the promotions, or the savings, or the opportunities. It's the relationship we rebuilt when everything else seemed to fall apart. If that layoff had never happened, we probably would have kept living on autopilot. Two busy professionals, passing each other in the hallway. Instead, we became partners in the truest sense of the word. So, if you're watching this while your family is going through job loss, financial pressure, or a season that feels impossible, don't let one difficult chapter convince you the story is over. Sometimes, life tears down the version of success you've been chasing, so it can build something much stronger in its place. Because careers can disappear, job titles can change, money comes and goes. But when two people choose each other every single day, even in the hardest seasons, that's the kind of wealth no layoff can ever take away. So let me ask you, if your family's roles suddenly reverse tomorrow, do you think your relationship would grow stronger, or would it struggle? Share your thoughts in the comments. I genuinely love to hear your perspective. And if this story reminded you that hope still exists after setbacks, don't forget to like this video, subscribe, and join us for more real-life stories about resilience, relationships, and finding strength when life doesn't go according to plan. Until next time, take care of each other.